It is legendary, tough and durable, instantly recognizable, and holds a distinct and powerful place in history. The Jeep has been called the iconic vehicle of World War II and one of America's greatest contributions to modern warfare and transportation. Even the name Jeep is the stuff of legend, part military slang, part enduring pop culture. Wherever the name came from, the Jeep was born out of the U.S. government's goal to create a small, multi-purpose soldier and weapons carrier in the lead-up to World War II. Over 100 U.S. manufacturers were asked to submit proposals for the ambitious vehicle design. Only 3 companies created prototypes: American Bantam, Ford, and a company called Willys Overland. And through the collaborative design process, the Willys Jeep became the top choice, with roughly 360,000 of them built during the war and deployed to great impact. The success and popularity of the Jeep led to its continued use in later wars, as well as its redesign into an agriculture and personal recreation vehicle. And in the Philippines, where Douglas MacArthur had so famously trekked across the islands in a Willys Jeep upon his return, the vintage Jeeps came to be known as MacArthur Jeeps. And some of those left behind after the war were then transformed into jeepneys, public buses capable of transporting up to 20 people. It wasn't just Filipino citizens who were fans of the Jeep's capabilities. President Ferdinand Marcos had one custom built for himself out of stainless steel. And when I interviewed the president in 1984 and took notice of his gleaming vehicle sitting in the driveway, he offered to build me one. So for just $9,000, I purchased the body and frame of a MacArthur Jeep from the president of the Philippines. And then it was shipped to the United States. Marcos left the Philippines in 1986. Little did anyone realize that this would be his last Jeep. Now, if you think that sounds unusual, U.S. Customs thought the same thing. When it arrived in California at the port of Long Beach, the agency seized the vehicle and then held onto the Jeep for 4 years. The reason? Officials had never seen one. And when the U.S. government finally released the Jeep from impound, we then tracked down an original Willys V8 engine, and it fit precisely into the car. With the engine in place, this completely handmade, completely stainless steel MacArthur Jeep became a one-of-a-kind in the U.S. It's been fully restored and maintained by Henrik Harapitinen and his team at the world-famous 4x4 in Burbank, California.
I probably, with my crew, have the highest number of years collectively with knowledge of bringing back these kinds of vehicles. Obviously, this is the only one like this that we've brought back. This Jeep is so unique because it was hand manufactured entirely from plain stainless steel sheets of metal. It was not in a manufacturing company. It was literally a bunch of guys in a shop took some flat metal and hand formed it, which is incredible. This Jeep is the only one like it in the entire United States.
And because of that, Henrik and his team had to approach this Jeep with special care.
There's no manuals that we can look at. It wasn't like I can call the local parts store and be like, hey, send me a bracket for 1972 Jeep CJ2A that's handmade from the Philippines, and the guy would send me the right part. We have to figure things out as we go. We were surprised when we pulled the motor out of it and looked at it. Luckily, it has very low miles. We were going to estimate it maybe in the few hundred miles at most.
Each part was assessed and evaluated separately. And while the engine was more than 70 years old, the components were essentially new. And because the Jeep was kept in a dry climate, the drivetrain was unaffected.
The body itself is stainless steel, so it will not rust.
Henrik's team then redid the seats and recovered them, as well as redoing all the wiring.
There's a couple items that we ended up leaving alone because they're in amazing shape. The steering wheel and the steering column and the instrument cluster were in amazingly good shape. So it took a lot of time, it took some effort. We finally got it handled, and now it's breathing again, which is really incredible.
And this Jeep is drivable. It looks identical to the way it was back in the Philippines. And what a journey it's already had, from post-World War Philippines to California. It took a few years to restore the vehicle, and the cost and hours of work exceed $50,000. But for collectors, it's not what it costs, it's what it's worth.
How do you value something where it's the only one? It's kind of priceless. A lot of American cars from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where they rust out and they got thrown away. This one, having the stainless steel body, can never rust away. This vehicle is going to live forever.
After being fully maintained and garaged for nearly 40 years and never driven, this one-of-a-kind historic Jeep is now available for the very first time.